In eastern Washington, deputies quickly placed steel cuffs around Rain Brown's wrists. In mere moments, the once cheerful and colorful face of Alaskan Bush People became the newest inmate charged with burglary and malicious mischief, right beside her new husband, Josiah Lorton. Fans were stunned. How could the soft-spoken, scripture-quoting daughter of the Brown family end up in jail? What unseen turmoil had driven her from the serenity of the forest to a stark, fluorescent-lit cell? The answers are coming, and early signs suggest trouble ahead. Speculation spread rapidly online. Was Rain truly arrested? Many couldn't believe it. But the booking sheet confirmed the news. Catherine Raindrop Brown, better known as Rain, was officially facing charges of first-degree burglary, first-degree malicious mischief, and second-degree criminal trespass. Somehow, between a joyful wedding post on Instagram in early 2025 and the legal documentation dated April 11, the youngest member of Discovery Channel's rugged Brown clan had crossed a line no one expected. Most people didn't realize how remote North Star Ranch was, far from paved roads. The Browns had built it after a wildfire destroyed their original home. It was Billy Brown's final vision before his death, a secluded haven where his children could find peace, raise families, and maintain their connection to the wilderness. Each sibling contributed in their own way. Gabe planted apple trees, Noah installed a solar water system, Bear forged trails for his children. Rain, once full of youthful enthusiasm, suddenly withdrew from the spotlight. Her social media, once filled with joyful quotes from Psalms and playful puppy selfies, grew darker after Billy's passing and the show's cancellation in 2022. A post in February 2024 read ominously, "When the sky breaks, it breaks you first." Fans were concerned but chalked it up to grief, until burglary charges appeared on public records. The alleged crime took place in a cabin near Tonasket. The affidavit remains sealed, but investigators claim there was forced entry, broken antique glass, and over $25,000 in property damage. Supporters argue that the cabin was abandoned, and Rain had entered only to retrieve paperwork she believed was rightfully hers. Some say the property belonged to a former manager she later accused of stealing $43,000. Regardless of the truth, her arrest shook the image Billy Brown had built over decades. Discovery Channel released a brief statement, "We are monitoring developments." Rerun sponsors paused their promotions. The media quickly labeled the incident as a symbolic end to the Bush family's image of innocence. In the county holding cell, Rain and Josiah sat quietly, surrounded by the sterile smell of bleach and the hum of fluorescent lights. Online, opinions split in two. One side clung to Rain's religious and humble persona, insisting she couldn't have acted with malicious intent. The other pointed to past moments of defiance against her father's rules, arguing that buried rebellion had finally surfaced. In between was a quieter perspective, that fame, grief, and financial strain can cloud judgment the way polar nights distort time. By April 14, the couple was released on personal recognizance. But the damage was done. Rain's public image had fractured, like ice on a river that never quite mends. TikTok was soon flooded with emotional edits of her singing by campfires, juxtaposed against mocking memes of cartoon bears in jail cells. A petition asking Discovery to cover her legal costs reached 10,000 signatures within a day. At the same time, others unfollowed the Browns in droves, saying the family's relevance had ended with the last reruns in 2022. Rain Brown's story began far from courtrooms and headlines. Her early life was measured in tree rings and river ice. Born in November 2002, the youngest of Billy and Ami's 7 children, Rain was raised in the wilds of southeast Alaska. She grew up hearing chainsaws instead of lullabies and navigating slippery moss instead of suburban sidewalks. Discovery Channel discovered the family when Rain was 11, expecting a gritty survival tale, but found a moving relationship between a family and the land. When Alaskan Bush People premiered in 2014, Rain's bright smile symbolized innocence. She chopped wood larger than herself, recited lines with dramatic flair, and offered spontaneous prayers. Fans adored her as the heart of the show, a gentle sibling who resisted swearing even in harsh weather. She once made doll dresses out of old flannel scraps, believing every piece of fabric deserved another chance under the stars. But fame isn't light to carry. Production schedules overtook natural rhythms. Privacy disappeared. While peers posted prom selfies, Rain shared videos of herself hauling elk meat through snow. She seemed okay with the trade, until 2018, when she wrote, "Some days the mud feels ankle deep in my soul." Teenage struggles became more visible, requests for makeup, online trolls accusing her family of being fake, whispers she might leave for college. Billy believed hardship built strength. Ami, while battling lung cancer, believed faith could defeat pain. Between these extremes, Rain searched for her own direction. She witnessed her brothers Matt and Joshua grapple with addiction and fame. She saw her sister Birdie face a choice between surgery and fertility. Meanwhile, producers continued to push for bigger drama. The line between reality and showbiz blurred. Even simple moments like a sunrise began to feel scripted. After Billy's death in February 2021, the show's sense of purpose unraveled. Ratings fell. Budgets were cut. By 2022, after season 14, Alaskan Bush People came to a quiet end. At 19, Rain entered adulthood without the production crew that had shaped her youth. She posted a mysterious goodbye with a snowy photo of their old cabin. Many assumed she was moving to the city. Instead, she joined her family in Washington's Okanagan Highlands to help rebuild North Star Ranch. But life off the grid came with steep costs. Insurance barely covered fire damage. TV royalties dwindled. Lucrative contracts disappeared. By late 2023, Rain was waitressing at a rustic diner near Chelan. There, she met head chef Josiah Lorton, a man with tattoos, a sense of humor, and a habit of blessing every plate before it left the kitchen. The two quickly bonded over hymns and hash browns. Soon, they were inseparable, carving initials into tree bark and promising to never let go of their simple life. But now those promises face a harsh test in a courtroom far from the forest where their love began. After work, Rain would trade her apron for boots. Josiah often waited with berry tea in a thermos. They'd drive along remote roads, park, and sit on the tailgate of a truck, swapping childhood stories. He spoke of Kentucky coal mines. She talked about sled dogs and northern lights. For someone raised on camera, the quiet was like a breath of fresh air. Josiah, 23, had climbed the restaurant ranks quickly but was burned out by long hours. He admired Rain's strong work ethic. She admired his patience with nervous tourists. By Christmas 2023, their romance was public. Rain's Instagram overflowed with affectionate nicknames: my angel, my healer, my home, my forever. Some fans were swept away by the romance, others cringed, skeptical of a whirlwind affair. But Rain, whose heart had once been shaped by wilderness chores and solitude, felt she'd waited long enough for something soft and kind. The engagement came quietly, on a fog-drenched pier overlooking Lake Chelan. Josiah had hand-carved a ring box from fallen pine and embedded it with an opal he'd dug up during a Utah trip. Rain said yes before he even finished asking. There were no videos, no stories posted. The only clue came weeks later when a glint of the ring caught the light in a January selfie. That same night, Rain responded to a troll accusing her of selling out with a cryptic phrase, "Goodbye forever." Most missed its significance. It marked a quiet rebirth, a letting go of one identity in favor of another. 3 weeks later, they exchanged vows in a log chapel near Wenatchee. Amy read from Corinthians, Noah strummed an acoustic guitar, and a local pastor spoke gently about forgiveness. No cameras, no media executives, no glossy exclusives, the day belonged solely to them. But the privacy didn't last. A blurry photo leaked online, and within hours, #RainBrownWedding was trending. Interview offers came quickly, and Rain turned each one down. Love doesn't need a sponsor, she said. But love needs money. North Star Ranch was bleeding funds, vet bills for snowbirds rescued animals were mounting, court costs from Matt's rehab had escalated, and overdue land taxes loomed. So, Rain and Josiah devised a plan: renovate a neglected lakeside cabin into a faith-based retreat. Josiah would teach wilderness cooking, and Rain would craft and sell handmade soaps. Lease negotiations dragged. Documents vanished into cluttered offices. Meanwhile, Rain kept a leather-bound journal, wrestling with every decision, haunted by her father's motto, "Live free or die," and the ever-present fear of disappointing her fans. On April 10, a journal entry later leaked to TMZ captured her resolve: "If this cabin falls through, we'll plant vegetables in buckets. We'll cook over alderwood. We'll sing louder. Just keep believing." Those words now echo through legal filings like trapped birds. The following day, they drove to the cabin with measuring tape and cleaning supplies. By sunset, both were under arrest. Love had collided head-on with hard reality. That night, Deputy Carlos Herrera's body camera began rolling at 7:42 p.m. It captured shards of glass strewn across a hardwood floor. The front window had been smashed inward, fragments mingling with pine needles and a tipped rain barrel. Rain stood near the fireplace, hands raised and trembling. Josiah knelt beside an old buffet, photographing broken porcelain knobs. A neighbor had called 911, reporting loud noises and arguments about money. "Ma'am, step outside," Herrera instructed. Rain obeyed, her eyes catching on a shattered landscape painting as she left. Twilight clung to the forest. Cruiser lights flickered through the pines. She tried to explain, they had permission, her former manager had stopped replying to emails. Herrera read her Miranda rights while Deputy Singh noted pry marks on the door. In the squad car, Rain murmured, "The Lord is my refuge." Josiah stared straight ahead. At the jail, they were processed quickly: fingerprints, mugshots, a confiscated multi-tool, a bottle of anointing oil. The charges? First-degree burglary, malicious mischief, and, for Rain, second-degree trespassing. Bail wasn't required, the magistrate trusted their community roots. Yet steel doors still slammed behind them for nearly 3 days. News broke before sunrise, thanks to a tip from a dispatcher's cousin. By 6 a.m., TMZ had published the mugshots under the headline, "Alaskan Bush People Meet County Bush League." Security footage released later showed Rain pacing barefoot in her cell, tearfully reciting Carrie Job lyrics. Detectives cataloged every damaged item: Civil War-era tintypes, Depression-era mason jars, a crooked cuckoo clock Rain claimed was broken before they arrived. The total damage? $27,480. The cabin's owner, Rain's ex-manager Ellis McGowan, claimed emotional losses as well, accusing her of attempting to destroy contract evidence. He even forwarded email threads referencing unpaid royalties in a 2024 settlement discussion. By April 14 at 2:03 p.m., Rain was released. She thanked the guards, grabbed her worn jacket, and stepped into the pale spring sunlight. Reporters waited. "Rain, did you do it?" one called. She paused, met the camera, and replied, "Judge not, lest you be judged." Then she got into Josiah's truck and shut the door, the hollow sound lingering like the first note in a long, uncertain legal battle. In her holding cell, Rain had shared space with a schoolteacher jailed over unpaid parking tickets. The woman later said Rain sketched mountain scenes on napkins and promised to send them once free. During Rain's video arraignment, Amy watched from North Star Ranch, her hand resting on Billy's photo, whispering, "Stay strong," as the judge set the next hearing for late June and warned them not to violate their release terms. The internet caught fire. Rain's arrest lit up social media like gasoline on open flames. The hashtag final verdict Rain trended. Fans posted old clips, now twisted to suggest foreshadowing. TikTok lawyers speculated wildly, some even suggesting life sentences under Washington law. Facts were scarce, drama abundant. On April 19, Rain returned to Instagram. Her comment sections had fractured, some hailed her as a warrior, others condemned her as a fraud. She posted a plain white square, quoting Matthew 7, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Beneath it, she wrote, "It hurts my heart that my rainbows believe lies from someone who stole $43,000 from me." She was referring to Ellis McGowan, the former marketing strategist once praised for elevating the Browns brand. Rain accused him of forging her signature on contracts, diverting royalty payments intended for ranch repairs. She claimed she confronted him, and he retaliated, first with rumors, then with the 911 call. McGowan's lawyers countered with claims of spite. They leaked an email where Rain allegedly threatened, "Return what you stole, or the mountain will speak." Cable news anchors laughed, but investigators traced the money. Us Weekly published financial records showing $42,937 had moved from Rain Brown LLC to McGowan's firm in 2024, labeled simply as ad spend. Whether those funds were ever used remains unclear. Meanwhile, Rain's brother Bam Bam hinted during a live stream that developers wanted the family off their land. Was the arrest a setup? Theories bloomed like mushrooms. Rain retreated to the ranch, vowed silence. Josiah installed security cameras. Birdie prayed from the porch. Gabe played moody guitar riffs across the hills. From the outside, they looked like a tight-knit family weathering a storm. But insiders murmured about tension. Some siblings feared more bad press could ruin future documentary deals. Netflix had shown interest in a revival, but talks fell silent. Civil attorneys urged Rain to settle, pay damages, sign a non-disclosure, walk away. But pride flared. Instead, she sued McGowan for defamation and emotional harm, demanding a public apology. Negotiations fell apart. On May 1, the docket was updated, Rain Brown vs. Ellis McGowan. A civil war now paralleled the criminal case. Her fans rallied. They held prayer circles, sold Rain innocent merchandise, and raised $5,000 for legal costs. But every headline echoed a single ominous refrain, "Not good." With each click, the pressure on prosecutors to reach a decisive final verdict grew heavier, threatening to crush whatever peace Rain managed to salvage on her rugged hilltop. Courtroom whispers followed as Rain arrived for her preliminary hearing wearing a navy blazer borrowed from Amy. Josiah stood beside her in a thrift store suit, a wooden cross tucked behind his lapel. The gallery teemed with reporters and a sprinkling of locals, all hoping for a small-town spectacle. Judge Marisol Kiading, stoic with glasses perched low, called the session to order with a sharp rap of the gavel. Prosecutor D.N.E. Mullins outlined the state's case: forced entry using a pry bar, malicious shattering of antiques, a motive tied to missing financial records, and the aggravated factor of nighttime intrusion. He recommended a plea bargain, admit guilt to second-degree burglary, serve 24 months, and pay restitution. Defense counsel Lina Ruiz countered, no burglary, only a contract dispute. There was no intent to steal, only to retrieve what was owed. Ruiz handed the bench a binder labeled McGowan fraud, including spreadsheets of missing royalties and unsigned contracts. Kiading flipped through the pages but warned that the binder's contents were civil matters, not excuses for trespass. Still, she agreed to set evidentiary hearings, where Rain's claims might mitigate her intent. A summer trial window was set, July 21 to 25 for jury selection, July 28 for opening statements. Rain's face tightened as the dates were read aloud. Josiah gently squeezed her elbow. Outside, cameras converged on the courthouse doors. Ruiz addressed them briefly: "We will prove our client acted to protect her livelihood, not to commit a crime." Legal analysts flooded podcasts with hot takes. Some argued the jury pool would sympathize with a reality TV underdog fighting corporate betrayal. Others pointed out that Washington's burglary law doesn't require theft, only intent to commit any crime inside the building, including malicious mischief. Life imprisonment is theoretically possible, though a first-time offender would usually receive less than 5 years. Still, headlines screamed life in prison, stoking hysteria online. Meanwhile, rain clouds gathered, literally. June storms pounded North Star Ranch, complicating preparations. Siblings debated selling another parcel to cover costs. Bertie suggested crowdfunding, Bear balked, fearing more public scrutiny. Amy called a family meeting, opening Billy's journal and reading aloud, "The truth will walk out of the woods." The phrase made the room go still. Yet under the stillness, unease simmered. Late one night, Ruiz emailed Rain a spreadsheet estimating possible outcomes: acquittal, probation, or imprisonment until 2030. In the margins, she typed, worst case, 5 to 7 years. Not good, but survivable with credit for good behavior. Rain stared at the words "not good." They felt chiseled into stone. She shut her laptop and prayed for daylight, her Bible open beside her like a lifeboat. During recess, supporters waved cardboard signs reading "Free the Bush Baby Outside." Drone footage captured the small rally and raced across Twitter within minutes, reigniting furious debates about guilt, fame, and justice. Each click added another stone to the mountain Rain would have to climb. Family under fire. The Browns had weathered blizzards, bear raids, and television cancellation, but nothing fractured them like Rain's pending trial. Amy assembled her children around the ranch's fire pit one moonless night, the same circle where Billy once preached resilience. Sparks spiraled upward as each sibling spoke, voices cracking under the weight. Gabe admitted he'd mortgaged his truck to help cover legal retainers. Bear confessed to selling digital rights to his wildlife photos for a cash advance. Bertie battled insomnia, fearing paparazzi might photograph her surgical scars. Noah, ever the inventor, designed rudimentary phone jammers to block drones from buzzing overhead. Bam Bam kept his camera shutter silent, documenting with his eyes instead of lenses, uncertain whether to sell the images later or bury them deep. Matt, estranged, yet sober, phoned from California. "Little sis, if judges can't see your heart, the world's broken," he said. His voice crackled with static but sincerity. He promised to testify to Rain's character if needed. The gesture thawed years of frost between siblings. Rain wiped tears away with a shaky hand. Josiah pulled her close, and Amy closed the circle with prayer. For a fleeting moment, unity outshone fear. The outside world, however, saw only opportunity. Tabloids published absurd stories, composite sketches of Billy frowning from the clouds above a courthouse. A podcast alleged the Browns staged the burglary for attention. Discovery Channel denied involvement, but rumors stuck like burrs. Brands that once courted them ghosted their emails. One energy bar company even demanded the return of 5,000 promotional samples. Lawyers advised silence, but silence creates a vacuum, and vacuums suck in speculation. Amy authorized a single interview with regional radio host Carla Dean. Her voice trembled but stayed steady. "My daughter is not a thief. She's a survivor." The broadcast exploded online. Supportive calls flooded in, but so did threats. One man promised to burn down North Star Ranch. Law enforcement traced the threat out of state, but the damage lingered like smoke. financial walls continued crumbling. Insurance premiums skyrocketed due to past fire damage. Rain's countersuit required expert witnesses, each costing thousands. Bam Bam proposed licensing old footage to educational platforms. Noah suggested selling a solar water purification system he developed. Bear offered guided survival weekends, though insurers balked at the liability. Every idea felt like trying to plug leaks in a sinking ship. Still, in dark corners of the internet, a different story took root. Rain Brown, folk hero. Animated shorts depicted her swinging an axe against greedy suits, superimposing the phrase "final verdict coming soon" over roaring campfires. Whether such narratives would sway a jury was unknown, but they fueled morale across the windswept ranch. At sunset, Birdie and Rain knelt side by side to light a fresh beacon fire. Its smoke curled into the endless sky. Beneath the weight of uncertainty, Rain leaned into Josiah, whispering, "No matter what comes, we don't lose each other." The family understood now. Rain's trial would test not just her innocence, but the very spirit of everything Billy Brown built. Survival was no longer about chopping wood or hunting elk. Survival meant standing tall when everything else cracked under pressure. Guilty without a verdict. The frost clinging to North Star Ridge hadn't melted, but Rain Brown felt stripped raw already, not by courtrooms, not by prosecutors, but by something far colder, the world outside. She barely checked her phone anymore. Every swipe showed another headline: Bush baby betrayal. Final verdict coming. Rain Brown's not-so-innocent wilderness life. News anchors who once praised her survival skills now traded jokes about mug shots. Former fans cropped her face out of family photos online. Even childhood friends she hadn't seen in years posted sly digs. Discovery Channel issued no defense. Netflix declined to comment. Sponsors quietly erased her name from marketing campaigns. Rain realized she hadn't just been arrested, she had been erased. Worse still, whispered threats stirred the air. A deputy close to the case hinted new charges could still come if investigators uncovered more property disputes tied to the alleged burglary. Rain's legal team warned her, "The police aren't finished. You could still face civil suits, or worse." Behind the thick pine walls of North Star Ranch, the Browns huddled close. Gabe sharpened knives silently. Bam Bam paced the porch at night. Josiah installed extra locks on every cabin door. A letter came from Rain's old manager's lawyers, demanding a public apology or risk facing $1 million defamation lawsuit. It wasn't just the court that loomed anymore, it was an invisible noose tightening day by day. At the heart of it all, Rain fought a war no one could see. One moment she was furious, convinced the truth would clear her name. The next, shame crushed her lungs until she could barely breathe. Was this what Billy had warned them about, the day when the outside world came crashing down on their isolated dream? One April afternoon, her lawyers called a private meeting in the bunkhouse. Rain sat at the cracked kitchen table, Josiah gripping her hand under the surface. "We have to be honest with you," her lead attorney said gently. "Even if you win the criminal case, even if you're acquitted, Rain, your reputation may never recover." Those words struck harder than any headline. It wasn't about evidence anymore. It was about perception, about the final verdict millions had already handed down, without waiting for judges or juries. After the meeting, Rain slipped outside alone. She thought about the promises she had made standing barefoot on frozen earth as a little girl, to live free, to live good, to live unseen by the poisonous noise of the outside world. Now, the noise had found her. The official courtroom verdict hadn't come yet. But in the real world, the final verdict had already landed, and for Rain Brown, it wasn't good.